Before Jeff Lynne's ELO. Before Electric Light Orchestra Part 2. Before the Traveling Wilburys. Before the Electric Light Orchestra. Before The Move, The Idle Race, and the Night Riders. There were the Chads.
Face the Music, an Electric Light Orchestra song-by-song podcast, returns on September 24th as Face the Music, a pre-ELO song-by-song podcast, covering the groups that evolved into the Electric Light Orchestra. And we start with the 1965 EP by the Chads, the first record Jeff Lynne appeared on. But you can only hear it when you subscribe to the podcast at patreon.com/ELOpod for $4 a month.
Hello and welcome to Pods Like Us. I'm Martin Quibell, known to my friends as Marv, and this time I'm speaking with Mikey from 1 Minute Movie Reviews. Hey Mikey, thanks for speaking with me.
Hey Marv, how are you doing?
Not bad, thank you. So, what's your first memory of film?
Well, a couple of them actually popped into mind. The first movie theater experience was at this movie theater in 1993 in Jurassic Park. What a great first experience of a movie.
Wow.
And from that point on, I was hooked. But a little thereafter that, I found this big box of VHS tapes. I just dated myself there.
Yep.
And they had all these, I don't want to say terrible movies, but they were terrible. They were B movies.
Yep.
A bunch of Godzilla movies in there. And from there on, I had a whole bunch of time to myself when I was a little kid. I was kind of by myself a lot. So I just put one in and just watch one after another. I'm like, wow, these are terrible. And yet they're so good at the same breath. Yep. And it gave me a real passion for movies that kind of continued on until I was in the Marines many years later, where we had a lot of downtime. We were by ourselves when we were not staging to go to war or whatever, or training or anything like that. I'd go to we had a little rental place there, and I just rent a new movie each time. And I just, okay, what was good about this? What was bad about that? And I didn't know what I was doing at the time was going to lead me into what I'm doing now. I had no idea. But those are probably my first experiences with movies. What a great one to start, though. Jurassic Park.
That's better than my first experience of going to the cinema, which was Pete's Dragon in the 70s.
I fully just go, I have no idea what that is.
Okay, good for
How
you.
did that even come up? Commercial for it? I want to see that.
Please avoid that film at all cost.
Pete's Dragon, next on the 1 Minute Movie Reviews podcast. No.
Oh, dear. I'm waiting for Sean from Review It Yourself to do it, because he always, I'm going off topic here, but he always goes sort of to a different degree you never expect people to go to with films. So he'll pick a film that most people will think is terrible, and he'll just go, actually, I quite like this film. And then he explains it to you. But sometimes, don't you find that you've watched a film before yourself and you've really not liked it, and then when you've somebody else has brought it up and they've explained to you what they like about it, it makes you almost re-evaluate the film, and then you go back to it and you find something. You might not think it's the greatest film in the world, but you'll find something that actually grabs you a bit more.
Absolutely. Actually, I kind of piggyback on that. I've had movies where I was in like a bad mood as I was watching it, and I'm like, this is going to affect how I view this, and like I need to stop, and then I'll go back to it. I'm like, okay, things aren't going the way I can't concentrate the way I need to, and I'll go back and review it. And I always say at the end of my podcast, like, what am I missing in this? Like, I get no joy from trashing a movie, and actually, I don't like to do it, but some of them are just that bad. And I feel like my overall goal is to get people. Time is money now. It's kind of the reason why I created the podcast, and I'll talk about that more here in a second. But I try to get people to watch movies that they skipped over because people say bad things about, or skip over movies that people are saying are good. I'm like, oh, are they though? So I always give the good and bad and let people make up their own mind. And like, this is why I liked it. What did you like about it? Let me know and people have done that. Like, hey, I found your movie review podcast. I literally watched this movie based off your recommendation, and I was so grateful for it. And a couple of times that's happened. Matter of fact, I'm like, this is exactly what I want to hear.
Well, we'll skip the next thing that's on there, then, and we'll go straight to that. So, what you were hinting at there is the fact that there's something about shorter length shows, bite-sized shows, that's attractive to a lot of people, because it's just something that you can pop in for a couple of minutes, listen to, and it gives you everything that you need in that short period of time. If you want to something, this shows, if you want to listen to them, that go more in depth and, do deep dives and things, and they're all great. But if you want something that's just a few minutes and you're thinking, I don't know about this film, let's have a listen to this. It says 1 minute movie review, but they're about 3 minutes, the episodes, but the review itself is around a minute. But the 3 minutes, you get everything that you need to know about the film, and then you take that information away. And if you want to watch the film, great. If you don't want to watch the film or the limited series, then great as well. There's so much out there for you to watch anyway.
Yeah, I don't know if we've ever lived in an era that we do as of right now, that we've had it so good with great movies and series. This year in particular, the movies that came out, the series that came out, I don't know if it's going to be topped anytime soon. I'm actually kind of dreading next year, because I looked at the slate, and I'm like, it's not looking that good. We were spoiled this year post-COVID. I knew we were going to have this year that it was just going to be flooded with great content, and it just happened to be this year. But that's kind of how my show started. Is I was part of another podcast. I burned out of it fairly early on, and gave it about a 6-month break, and all of a sudden I felt that itch again, and I didn't know what that was.
Yeah.
And I didn't know if I wanted to go back to the other podcast or create my own, where I can kind of have more control over it. Then I watched this series on Netflix called Inventing Anna, and I was very upset that I couldn't find something to tell me not to watch this terrible series.
Yeah.
I hated it, in the sense that it was just so long, and they could have condensed it into such a smaller format. Then it got me thinking about it. I don't want to listen to a movie review podcast that's 2 hours long, that's longer than some of the movies and TV series itself, and it ruined any incentive to watch it. Those movie review podcasts have a place, and they go so much in depth, and I love doing it. I have a couple of them that I listen to myself. But then all of a sudden it hit me. I'm like, okay, I want to do this 1 minute movie review thing, just to give them a reason to listen, not to listen, and my overall rating, my personal. And I wasn't expecting it to kind of take off. Like, we were doing very suspiciously well. But I that's basically the reason why I created it. Then I was getting way too much into U.S. politics, which is a nightmare right now, and I needed a distraction to get away from it. Like, I can't keep on going down this course. It's really bad right now in the U.S. as far as the political realm, and I needed a break from it. And I normally watch a lot of movies and series anyway, so it was like a natural marriage of these two ideas, and just putting it together and see what would happen afterwards. Then to see if anybody would even be interested. Because I did find a couple people that have tried to do this before, the 1 minute reviews, but they never made it past episode 10 or 11. And they just give up. And I don't know. I think I just did 85, and I got 7 more in the chute right now that are just I just have to record and put up. About 3 of them are recorded, and they're about to come out tomorrow, I think. And just put them out there. put 3 more. Yeah, it's Terminal List, Morbius, and what was the other one? Oh, Samaritan.
Okay.
Not a strong lineup, but little spoiler alert there. But there's reasons to watch something. And there's always a reason to watch to not to watch. And it's part of the joy of connecting with people that are very like-minded, that give me feedback and say, hey, what did you like? I have somebody in particular that messages me, hey, have you watched this yet? He'll give me things that are coming. And I have another gentleman that will always send me spoilers. Like, hey, this is about to happen. Right before Doctor Strange came out, he started sending me the spoilers. I'm like, okay, send them to my DMs. Don't send them to, because I don't want to spoil things for people. That's not my thing. No. Which I found it's really hard to do this podcast, is 1, only having a minute to explain everything, and 2, not to spoil anything.
Yes.
So I almost feel like I go really generic, because I don't do any spoilers on it. I won't tell you anything that'll be considered a spoiler, because I don't want to be that guy.
Yeah. Yeah. But it's tricky because, I mean, the spoiler thing, even film companies are having the same problems, like with superhero films, which we were talking about before we started recording.
Yeah.
That is particularly a tricky one because you find a lot with Marvel films, for instance, their trailers will be made up of what's in the first like 10 to 20 minutes of the film, because everything past that is a spoiler. It's a bit like, I mean, you know, spoiler alert, they couldn't put the 3 Spider-Men into the trailer for No Way Home.
Spoiler, yeah.
Because that would have just spoiled everything there and then. It was already spoiled to a degree by, you know, by the actor saying that he was playing Doc Ock in the next Spider-Man. Oh, I'm in the next Spider-Man as Doc Ock. Oh, are you?
Yeah.
Spoiler. But
which I thought it was brilliant the way they did it, like with Andrew saying, "Of course I'm not in this. What are you talking about?" But Toby just looking at him funny, like. I thought it was brilliant. Like, it had me and my sons like around Twitter, like, look at this one picture. It looks like somebody's punching Sandman right here. There's got to be somebody else here. And it worked. And it built up into a fever pitch of people like, are they actually in the movie? I thought it was brilliant. But it was hard for them to cut that part. It was a very inevitable position for them to be in, to produce that trailer without spoiling anything. I don't know how they did it. Which they kind of did, but not enough to really ruin it for everybody.
And God bless Patrick Stewart, because he tried to do the same thing for Doctor Strange and say, "That's not me. That's not me playing
that's somebody else.
Professor X. That's somebody else."
Which is weird to see such a comic book accurate version of Professor X. I was blown away when I saw him. Like, yes, finally, that was amazing.
But that brings to mind, you know, we're going on a tangent here again. But
sorry,
I want them to keep, so long as he's around, I want them to bring Patrick Stewart into the Marvel version of the X-Men, because I think he is a really good Professor X.
Well, it's great casting. It's exactly right. And I think now that they've fully opened the multiverse, there's a way to do that and have a Professor X moving forward being a different actor. And I don't think there has to be a whole lot of drop. There's going to be some MCU purists that aren't going to like that idea. But come on, it's a fantasy world. You can do whatever you want with it. None of this actually exists.
I mean, them keeping Charlie Cox as Daredevil is perfect, because I thought Daredevil was the best of the Netflix series.
Yeah. I thought it was too, and I still think it was early on in season 1 where there's a fight scene in a hallway. And the choreography was one of the most amazing things I've ever seen, and like what they were doing with the light at it. Like, this is amazing. Like, this is how it should be. This is how Marvel's series should be. Yeah. I didn't have a problem with the other Netflix series of the Defenders, or I guess I can't really call them Defenders, by themselves in solo endeavors. But I wouldn't mind seeing them come back in some capacity and do it. I thought his name's eluding me right now. The gentleman that played Luke Cage.
Yes,
I thought did a fantastic job. I think Jessica Jones has already been confirmed. Yes. Yeah. And Kristen Ritter has already been confirmed, I believe, to come back as Jessica Jones. I think the only one they're not going to get to come back is Finn. As Iron Fist, which I think they're going to eventually have to recast, because he plays a big role in the series moving forward. Actually, I wouldn't be surprised to see him in Doctor Strange at some point. But they have so much stuff they can do. They're just tipping the scale of what they can actually do with this. It's going to be a fun time to be a Marvel fans moving forward.
But in a sense, I feel sorry for Finn as an actor, because that was the one down of all of those series. The one that was majorly down was the Iron Fist series, because that you mentioned there with the fight sequence in Daredevil, we'd got that. And then when they announced they were doing Iron Fist, I had this thing in my head and I was thinking, wow, if they if they're as good with the fight sequences in this as they were in Daredevil, this is going to be something else. But they sort of failed with that. And I don't think it's the fault of the actor particularly. I think it's the fault of the people that were doing the series, in a sense.
Yeah. Iron Fist himself, the character, is hard to pull off, because All the other ones are like real life abilities. The heightened sense with Daredevil and real life fighting ability. Jessica Jones, super strength, real life fighting ability. And skin that can't be broken, and Luke Cage, and just massively strong. He's the only one that has like mystical. I use air quotes on a podcast, so that doesn't work well. But mystical Iron Fist, it's hard to pull off. I think they did the best that they could, but I don't know. It's almost like I want to see what Kevin could do with the MCU, Kevin Feige, of what he could do with it, because he gives realistic ideas that just pull off. They just work. I hope we don't see the last of him, but I can kind of see why Finn is like, yeah, I'm not interested in that. And he's got other projects going on. Anyways, he's a busy guy.
But with that, I mean, when I actually think one of the highlights of the phase that's going at the moment, one of the highlights for the films is Shang-Chi for the most part.
Oh, yeah.
And that to me says there's potential for them actually getting Iron Fist to work if they bring Iron Fist in. Mm-hmm. Because that is that side of it. That is the mystical side of Marvel and of the fight series of comics. So I think there's potential there that they treated that perfectly, the Shang-Chi character. And I'll just say, aside from that, they also treated the family well as well, I think, because avoiding the potential problems that there are with the original source material, in the comics, and then restructuring that the way that they did, I thought that was really clever. So I think they could make it work.
They could, and just as you were saying that, my mind went to Moon Knight. They pulled off Moon Knight. I would like to see their version of Iron Fist, maybe with how they did Moon Knight. It's great to see that we're getting characters like Moon Knight, like Ms. Marvel, and I don't want to say lesser known characters, but they're not the Avengers in the sense of the traditional Avengers one. And like we have She-Hulk right now, which I'm going to be on record as saying this. It's been one of my favorite series so far, just the way they've been able to do it, making fun of themselves, breaking the fourth wall, which she does all the time in the comic books. Yep. I remember one time she looked, the cover of the comic book says, "Hey, buy this comic book right now, or I'm going to come over to your house and rip up all your X-Men." I remember walking by, seeing it. I'm like, that's hilarious. I love it. But like, you have all these lesser known stories and people are kind of down on them because they're like, oh, it's not Iron Man. It's not Captain America. It's not Thor. It's not all these other ones that have been done and done a lot. But you can get more depth from this and build up these other characters. I've had a great time watching these stories. I did not know a whole lot about Moon Knight going into it. And I thought Oscar Isaac gave a master class of acting on this, because literally he's asking a question like, what could a superhero ask or do if they had mental illness? He has multiple personalities, his coping mechanisms. And he did it brilliantly. You could tell when he was acting as different characters. Yeah. He's a fantastic actor. Yes. And I enjoyed that series far more than everybody else. I hope he does get another shot at it, because I think they have something there.
Well, they are doing a series too, aren't they? Basically, because I
thought they did.
Oscar had already accidentally let people know anyway, hadn't he? Because he put a picture up of him in the director scouting
in Egypt, and they were like,
Egypt,
they're like, well, so a fan came up, they're like, what are you guys doing here? And they both looked at, what do you think we're doing here? And they're like, then they kind of backtrack from it, but I'm like, I don't know about that. Like, it's just a heck of a coincidence there, Oscar.
But the video, he actually says we're in Egypt to scout locations.
Yeah, I hope to see it. I like the first one.
Yeah, but I mean, I'm more. I know more about the Moon Knight character from the comics beforehand, so I can see why there's a fallout with it from being the reader of that. But the problem is that it's always going to be an adaptation. It's never going to be a direct lift from what's in the comics to what's on the screen, because in some ways it might not work, and in other ways it might not as well. My only niggle with it was having to wait until that last sign-off for Jake.
Yes.
And then when we got that, I was like, no, I wanted him earlier.
What a great segue into season 2, though, if they do it. Like, you're like, you got there's a third?
Yeah.
Like, I totally forgot about it at the time. And all of a sudden I think it was like he turned around with the hat. And I'm like, and I had to look it up because I totally forgot about it. Like, I consider myself a comic book nerd, but I don't I don't remember. Like I haven't read a comic book in 20 years, and
Yep.
and I had hundreds. I still have them. I have my collection from when I was a kid downstairs, and I'm gonna give them to my kids when they're older. But they're 99% X-Men, and that's just what I was into at the time. So I didn't know. I knew rough like crossover events and like secret wars and secret invasion things that I'm like, oh, who's this character? And I would look into it more from that. So I don't actually I knew less about the Avengers about more than anything else. The X-Men was always my favorite, always gonna probably be my favorite, but I had loved what they did with the stories and diving deeper into these characters.
I'm Agent Scott.
And I'm Cam the Provocateur.
And we're from the Spy Hards Movie Podcast.
That's right. And you are listening to Pods Like Us, the podcast that has a license to thrill.
So, what was your first introduction to podcasts?
I was a part of I made a podcast with my friend Tony. I wore him down after 3 years of saying, hey, do you want to do a podcast? Hey, do you want to do a podcast? Hey. So one day we just recorded. We didn't even have a name. We didn't even know what we're going to talk about. So we created the name, There Is a Better Podcast. And because we were literally, it was a self-deprecating podcast where we just talked about things that were going on. And we did There's a Better recommendation of beer and other things. We had a good time. We added other people to the show, and it just their tagline now is we're about the show that's about everything and nothing at the same time to bring a little joy and humor to your days, which is a great way to put these guys. I still love them. I work with Tony. He's like one of my best friends, but I just didn't feel that connection anymore, and I burned out very early on, like 6 months in. Then I took a break from it. Then I decided I was just going to try to. I think I was done with podcasting. Then that's when I created my show. When I realized 3 months later, I'm like, wow, that itch is still there. Like I still want to do something. I still have fun with this. But unlike when I was part of There's a Better Podcast, Tony did all the sound. He's been a sound engineer for a number of years. He does amazing things with editing and all these things I couldn't do. So I'm literally starting from scratch. I have no idea what I'm doing. I don't know how to record. I don't know what to record with. And thank God for Tony. He guided me through all these things. He gave me suggestions like, hey, try this. Hey, try this. Use Audacity. Do this. And it's been a joy that we bounce ideas off of each other. I still guest spot in that podcast every now and then. I'm the OG of that show, the original gangster, I guess. We have a good time with that. But I listen to podcasts as much as I can. I have a whole, it feels like I kind of like onesies and twosies all the way through. Like I'll binge a whole bunch at once, then I'll take a break from it. And I try really hard not to listen to other movie review podcasters, especially if it's something that I haven't watched yet, because I don't want it to be spoiled. And two, I don't want to repeat anybody else's ideas.
Yep.
And I want to have a real and authentic, my version of how I felt at that time. Then I go back after I've released my episode and listen to them like, oh, wow, man, I wish I would have thought of that.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, that's a great way to think of that. I'm like, man, I totally missed that episode. I'm like, was I even watching the same movie? I missed this whole part. Or maybe it just didn't resonate with me at the time. And then second viewing. And that's actually why I started doing, I have my regular 1 minute movie reviews. That's always going to be the tent pole, the flagship, if you will. I've added something called Revisited series where I go back and look at movies from yesteryear and give them with a fresh take and like, do I still feel the same way about it? And one of the first ones I did was, I think it was Jurassic Park. And then I did Speed from 1993 or 94. Then I did League of Their Own. League of Their Own was the only one that I didn't feel the same way about. All the other ones, like the nostalgia feeling felt that same way. League of Their Own, for some reason, I was all over the place. I'm like, wow, this isn't what I remembered. It was kind of disheartening. Actually, I was like, oh, I remember this differently. Why do I feel differently about it now? I couldn't tell you why, but it was
because I remember liking that film when I saw it, A League of Their Own, when it came out, and I watched it again a couple of years later. Still enjoyed it, but I'm wondering if I look back on it now, because I've not watched it in must be 20 years. I've not watched that film in.
What it was for me.
I'm wondering if I might have changed my mind since.
It kind of made me. I kind of wish I wouldn't have done it after. I'm like, oh, like this just didn't hold up to me for some reason. But Speed did, Jurassic Park did. I don't think I've released the 7 episode, which is probably one of my favorite movies of all time. I need to go back and look 7. It's such a what a great thriller. Probably the greatest thriller I've seen personally, but
Yep.
and there's a lot of them. But yeah, then I have the bonus time where I go where I review things that are upcoming. Like I'm okay. So these are the projects I'm seeing that are coming. Here's the release dates for them. Here's the platforms they're on. Keep an eye on for these. Those ones take a whole lot more effort to put together because they're about 25 minutes long, or 20 to 25 minutes. And then I have something that's coming around episode 100, which is only about 15 episodes. I'm going to do something called the Takedown series.
Okay.
And this is going to be the first time, and it's going to be a risky gamble for me. And I've been having a lot of self-doubt about doing it. It's where we take down beloved movies of the past or current.
Yeah.
Everything that's wrong with this, this one's not a spoiler. This one will be spoilers with real language, which I don't know if I'm going to edit it a whole lot. And my first one, and what made me think of this, was Top Gun Maverick, because I was so furious coming out of that movie theater. Good movie, yes.
Yeah.
But when they go into the intro, like, Tom, have you seen it?
I've not seen it yet. No.
Tom Cruise gets on there before. Welcome back to the movie theaters. We brought you the most real and authentic experience ever. So I had those standards. I'm like, okay, this is what I'm expecting. And that did not happen. I'm like, wait a minute. And being a prior military guy, they took some liberties with this movie that I thought was quite insulting. Then I just seeing all these people saying it's the perfect movie and all this stuff. I'm like, wait a minute, hold on. First, there's no such thing as a perfect movie. There's the ones that get close.
Yep.
It's a good movie, but I think people are overlooking a lot of flaws in this movie that really, really bother me. So that'll be upcoming on episode 100.
100.
100, right around the corner already.
Yep. I've recently hit the 100 as well.
Did you really?
Yes.
Congratulations.
Well, I made the stupid mistake when I first started because I thought, podcasting's easy. So what I'll do is I'll release 2 episodes per week. And this is a long form show, and I was doing that, and it's so tiring doing that about, I went on like that for a long time, and eventually I just thought, I can't do this. I'll have to go back down to a once a week. Although saying that, I mean, Stu from Stu World Order, he does it 1 to 3 times a month, and I think that's all he does, or sometimes twice a month.
I go through binges where I used to have a set schedule where I do 1 minute movie review on Tuesday, bonus time on Thursday, which I'm going to try to go back to now that I think my life's finally slowed down a little bit. But then I would sprinkle in other episodes as I got to it. I got to the point where I did like a 7-day challenge where I released a new episode every day for 7 days, but it turned out to be 14 days because I was able to do it. I was able to get through it. But then I go through long swaths where I kind of burn myself out. So, and that's an important thing to do as podcasting, which I learned after, is stay consistent. I haven't been consistent enough. Like life gets in the way and I'm like, hey, I can't get a new episode out this week. But I got a whole bunch of them in the works. And once I hit that, when things slow down, I can put out 25 episodes in 30 days. It wouldn't be that surprising.
Well, even the bonus episodes that you were putting out, they were good length because they were around 14, 15 minutes long.
Yep.
But it was interesting because what you were doing there was you were explaining in more detail the things that you were watching. So you watched this, you've watched that on the television, and you were saying, I've really liked this. This is great. This is getting better as it goes along. You were like watched an episode 3 or something. He said it's getting better. And then things that weren't working for you, you'd say, this wasn't working for me. And then you'll explain why. But it's an interesting thing to what you were doing with having the 3-minute and then having the bonus on that day. And
I try to give it where I can give, because it's really difficult to fit a whole movie into a minute. It's incredibly, I greatly underestimated how much time it took to do that. And a lot of times I'll listen to it back. Well, not a lot of times. I've only listened to my show 5 times because I drag. It's like nails on a chalkboard. I'm like, I find things that I mess up. I'm like, come on, Mike, you're better than this.
Yeah.
But I try to like focus it down, and like the bonus time gives you, in essence, more time to talk about things that I may have missed that I wanted to address during the 1 minute where you're like, hey, if I didn't give you another reason, here's try this one out. And this one could potentially work for you as well.
Just wait till we get to that section later on in the episode.
Yeah.
10-second movie descriptions.
Oh yeah. Oh God. Really putting me on the spot there. I'm sure I can pull it off.
So, how is it just? Is there a reason why you select the films and because sometimes you do shows as well, which is great when you do shows. But is there a reason why you select those specifically, or is it just I've seen this, I'll talk about this?
People will reach out to me like, "Hey, is this on your radar? You should put it on your radar. You're missing this." And like the Bear that's on Hulu, a lot of people like I'm about halfway through, and I think I probably would have skipped over it. Or I wouldn't have got to it for a while. Like, hey, you need to move this up on your list. People actually message me and say, hey, take a look at this. I'll see feedback from podcasters that I respect, and I think that we're very like-minded. So I would, if they're posting on it, it probably means something to me. Or like, hey, did I have the same feelings? Or just things that I've always wanted to see, or just happen to be in my own. I don't sleep much. So after wife and kids are in bed, I got like a 2-3 hour window every night where I can just sit there and like, okay, this is what I want to work on right now. Right now, there's so many good series. I feel like I have like my hand in 5 different series going on. I got Rings of Power, you got the House of the Dragons, She-Hulk, you got the Mike series that's on Hulu, which is fantastic. Although Mike Tyson hates it.
Okay.
There's just so many other things that sometimes it's hard because I gotta figure out how to prioritize which ones I want to do. And a lot of times I try to find a movie that doesn't get the love that it deserves. It got skipped over. For top of my head, Adam Project on Netflix was tremendous, and I wish I had a theater release. Love and Monsters came out right during COVID, and I love that movie, and nobody really talked about it. And House of Gucci was another one that kind of slid through. It wasn't bad, it wasn't great, but it's still worth a watch. There's a lot of things that are worth a watch.
Yep.
And I just feel like unfortunately get skipped over.
I was going to mention when you said that about Mike Tyson, there's the same problem with, the Sex Pistols program, series that's based on Steve Jones's own diaries and memoirs. Famously over here, Johnny Rotten, John Lydon, is actually against the film. Or the series. He hates it with a passion. He doesn't like how he's being portrayed.
Yeah, and I have to dig a little bit more into this about why Mike doesn't want it to do, because from what I can tell, it's pretty accurate based on everything that came around the time. I think like a lot of things that come out with Mike, it comes down to money. I don't think he was included in the process. I don't think he was consulted.
Yeah.
And I think that he probably got screwed out of some money, and that's probably why he doesn't like it as much. I kind of wish he would embrace it, because I don't know how it is over there, but here in the States, United States loves comeback stories more than anything else. And he does have a comeback story of sorts. He's kind of sorted things out. He had not a great upbringing, and you definitely sympathize him with a lot of things. And I have a deeper knowledge, and I definitely appreciate him a whole lot more. So I kind of wish he would embrace this series, although some things don't make him look very well. But sorry, Mike, that was life at the time. Like, choices were made. And I think they do a good job of explaining why he made these choices. Yeah. And it's a phenomenal series. It breaks the fourth wall too, but the way they do it kind of like weaves it in and out of the story, and it's very well done. Very well done.
But I mean, despite everything that's happened with Mike, we're going on another tangent here.
Yep.
But most of us still recognise that he is and always will be seen as one of the greatest at his time. He was one of the greatest boxers of all time. He was amazing to watch.
I don't know if we've ever seen anybody like him. I can't even think of a boxer that would. Lennox Lewis kind of came up very fast too, but I don't think we've never seen anybody like Mike Tyson. Just like the ferociousness and how he could move, and just how dominant he was, and like. I think he had like a 23 fight streak to start his career with almost all of them were knockouts or something like that. Some ridiculous amount. I don't think most of them got out of the first round. It's an incredible story. Hulu's actually been on fire lately with things like this. Like the Pam and Tommy series was incredibly well done. Sebastian Stan and Lily, I forget her name. Lily, not Lily Allen.
Yep.
Lily James. They were
Lily
fantastic.
James, yeah.
Yeah, they were fantastic as Pam and Tommy. Like to the point of like they were getting all their little mannerisms because Tommy Lee has a very distinct way about him. And
Yeah.
Sebastian Stan, like I had a hard time. I'm like, I know this is Sebastian Stan, but like just his mannerisms, he's perfecting. It's a very raunchy series, but I thought it was a very good series. And it made me far more sympathetic to Pamela Anderson in particular and how she got the raw end of every deal that was going on in that.
Yeah. But Tommy is, as you say, a character. You follow him on the socials, and he does not hide the fact that is how he is.
Yeah, I don't follow him on the socials for that exact same reason, because he's a little out there for my taste. I do enjoy, as a human being, I do enjoy his antics, I guess, to a certain degree. I think he's entertaining. He's an entertainer, and that's what he does with his life. When it's all said and done, when people will remember back, I'm like, well, he's a crazy guy.
Yeah. I mean, a few weeks ago, I just opened up Instagram on my. You know how it works on these things. You open these things up, and it's random what it posts up as soon as you open up the first thing, And I opened it up, and the first thing I've got is the real Tommy Lee's bits out there. Yes, his member. It's out there, and I
heard about this,
and I'm like, I never thought I'd wake up today and the first thing I'd see looking on my phone was Tommy Lee's,
member,
personage.
Yeah, I would have been seeing. That's exactly why I don't, because I know if I followed somebody like that, Lord forbid, I'd be sitting next to my kids about to show them something and open up Instagram, and there it is. I would like, Dad, what was that? Some type of snake? No, no.
All right, it's impressive, but I didn't want to see it.
It's Tommy Lee for you. It's Tommy Lee.
It is. So, what research do you do leading up to the episodes?
I basically just watch it, and sometimes I'll watch whatever movie or series, and there's certain things that I want to write down right then and there. I have a template that I use that basically follows the thing: why to watch it, or what's it about, why to watch it, why to skip it. My rating always stays the last, obviously. Then I just go through each one, like certain things that I want to remember, I type in there, and I try to figure out how to write it in later. I try not to do a whole lot of research just into directors and all that. And I know I'm like one of the few that do that, or that don't look too much into directors. And I think I should, because I'm noticing things now. And I'm an amateur at this. I don't know what I'm doing. I'm just doing it for fun. But I didn't give a lot of credence to it. I'm like, I just try to enjoy the movie for what it is, what it's trying to tell, the story it's trying to tell. And directors shouldn't, like, if I'm looking for shows just by directors, I feel like I'm alienating the whole population just because it's not a well-known director. So I don't really try to do any of that stuff. So I just do it. I try to, like, if it's a historical piece, like Tyson things, I try to look at, I'm like, okay, wait a minute, did this actually happen?
Yeah.
And look into things like that. If it's just a fun sci-fi show, or like a comic book series, like the Peacemaker series, I love. I try not to look too much into it, because then it feels like I get caught in these rabbit holes of people like, oh, this isn't source accurate and all this other stuff. I'm like, it's a series. Let's just have fun with the series and let it breathe and go from there. And so I try not to do a whole lot of research on them. Sometimes I'll see like an actress or an actor that I'm like, wow, I really enjoyed them in this. What else can I see them in? And I've kind of been doing that with Matt Smith lately, and Dylan O'Brien. And I'm like, okay, what else can I see? And it'll kind of set me on a pathway of watching their movies. But I try not to. But then again, I feel like I'm alienating another one. So it's kind of just whatever I'm feeling in the moment, I'll just go and grab that movie or show and just, okay, I really want to see this. And for example, Samaritan, that's about to come out. I'm like, they were hyping this up for so long. I'm like, oh, this would be so good. I'm like, why did they pull it from the movie theater? And like, I watched it. And I'm like, oh, That's why they pulled it from the movie theater. That was a good call. That was really bad. Then you have something like Prey that came out, and I adored it. I thought it was one of the best streaming movies I've ever seen. And I was mad that it didn't get a theater release. I'm like, they should have had a theater release of this. Because I think they could have made some really good money on it. But I try not to do a whole lot of research besides historical accurate things and stuff like that, to give disclaimers during my viewing of it, or my recording of the episode.
For anybody interested, if you by the time this comes out, which will be a while, Mikey will have already have done his assessment of Morbius that Matt Smith's in, and we're not going to spoil what his opinion is of that.
I think my "Oh God" reference will speak for itself.
It's
morbid.
It's not Morbin time.
Saying, if I don't open the show with "It's Morbin time," I'm doing it wrong. I actually was thinking about trying to find like the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers and kind of like try to splice that into it. And like each time they say instead of "It's Morphin time," to put Morbin time in it and try to splice it in there. Like I have a Halloween issue. You're going to be the first one to hear this. So I have a Halloween one I'm coming up. And one of my favorite horror movies of all time is Scream. I love the first Scream, one of my favorite movies. And, you know, with Drew Barrymore, the very famous scene, she picks up the phone. I'm going to edit Drew Barrymore out, and I'm putting my voice into it. And I'm like, from the very old-fashioned ringtone, ring, ring. Hi, this is Mikey 1 Minute from the 1 Minute Movie Reviews. How may I help you? Then like Ghostface.
Right.
I'm gonna do the whole bit, and it's gonna open the show on the revisited Scream series. And it's a whole lot of editing. It's a whole lot of work. I'm hoping I can get it done in time, because taking the source and putting it in there, it's really difficult, especially if you have no idea what you're doing. Like me, I'm the amateur of the amateur. But it's been so fun to do because it's so iconic. Like, what's your favorite movie? I'm like, oh my God, good. We're finally talking about this. Thank you. Then having a conversation with, and he's like, hello, Sydney. I'm like, I just told you my name is Mikey 1 Minute. What are you talking about?
Yeah. You need to be able to get the video of that clip and actually do that, and then put it on your socials as a promo for that episode.
I put Mikey 1 Minute's melon on top of Drew Barrymore's body.
Yep.
You know what? I should do that. That'd be so disrespectful to Drew Barrymore, but I don't care. Oh.
She would probably repost it.
She may,
because she's got an incredible sense of humor.
I'm just going to say, to title the revisited Scream with special interview with Ghostface, just to be a troll post, and people are like, wait, he really got Ghostface? I'm like, they're gonna listen to it in the first minute and like, this idiot, so full of it. I'm like, I don't care, it's funny, whatever, have fun with it.
So what sort of scripting do you do, or is it all just from the top of your head?
I have that script where I do like the intro, and I have like, I find a dad joke right before that. I've been adding those to it just because they're stupidly funny. And I'm a dad, and I say dad jokes to my kids all the time. And they're like, Dad, that's awful. I'm like, yeah, it is. But it's worth a cheap laugh or two. So I have that. And I go into what's it about, then reasons to watch, reasons to skip, and my wrapping up. Then at the end, I do this kind of an Easter egg where I kind of like sum up the episode. I'm like, so if you got 1 minute to spare, you can spend it with me. And a lot of people didn't know, because most people don't listen. As soon as they feel like it's over, they just cut it off. But I've been doing this for probably 50 episodes now. And some of them are funny and some of them just don't work. And some of them I have people come out to like, God, that outro was so good. I was rolling laughing, and it just goes right into the next episode because they're so quick. It gives them a reason to listen and hopefully continue on. Bonus time, I haven't done one in a while, basically all summer, because they're really time consuming to create. So I have a format on a Excel or a Google Doc, and I just put it in as I see things. Oh, people should know about this. I'm like, hey, did anybody hear about this series that's coming out? I'm like, did we really need another Speed Racer movie? I'm like, why are we doing this? And I create all this. I have a flow of what I want to talk about. And a lot of that, I try to go, that's a little bit more unscripted, where I just have The garbage man's coming. I could hear him coming down the street. My dog's going to lose it. Sorry.
That's Mikey's dog barking at the garbage coming. Garbage
I
being.
apologize. No, it's not a review of Morbius backing up in the driveway.
Well,
but
perhaps that's where the film belongs.
Along with some of the actors. No. It's a little bit more free-flowing with that one, where I just have bullet points and I just talk about those bullet points. He's just not going to leave us alone until I leave. But the free-flowing. And Revisited series is almost the same format as the 1 minute movie review, but just an older movie, not something that you would have to go search and try to find out and watch. It's not something that's currently streaming normally or active in your mind, like Thor: Love and Thunder just came out on Disney Plus. You wouldn't be thinking about. I jump in the time machine, go back to '94, and do Speed. And that was a great movie, by the way. Ridiculous, but it was a great movie. Stupidly ridiculous, but you need those every now and then.
We'll go back in time, and you could do the. You could do that Incredible Hulk film from back in the '80s where they had Thor in it. Oh
God, that was terrible. Oh boy.
Hi, this is Katie of Bad Counsel with some good counsel. You should keep listening to Marv at Pods Like Us.
So, how do you record the show and then edit it together?
I use my platform is Audacity, just because. This is what Tony from There's a Better Podcast. He's like, hey, try this. It's like it's really user friendly. You don't know what you're doing, and I can give you tips remotely of like how to adjust things and how to edit that. It was really simple. Most of the time, if I get stuck on something, I Google it, because when you're an independent podcaster, you don't really know what you're doing early on, and you perfect things. I have a format that I use. I already have pre-cut slice for the intro, the outro, and the 1 minute's already in there. So I take a rough cut. Actually, I call it the rough cut, and it's just me trying to get through what I want to say. Then I edit it down to what's actually going to. I just drop it in there and move just a couple sliders, and that's how the cookies are made. Yeah, fairly simplistic, very easy.
And the music that you use as well, and the sound effects. I mean, where did they come from?
Yeah, actually, I was very thankful. All the music came from either Tony from There's a Better Podcast or my friend Brian. He just, in his spare time, he just likes to create music like that. And he does it over and over again. He's like, hey, Mike, what do you think about this one? Hey, Mike, what do you think about this one? He just randomly throws it. I'm like, hey, can I use this? And, yep. And I just do it. And I give him a shout out, and he seems to love it. I'm very grateful that I've had a very solid support team around me that can create things like this. I'm like, I try to get Brian to go on like Fiverr, and I'm like, you can sell these things to people. People use these, man. And he's like, no, I just like creating them for you. He's like, I just like creating them for you. If you know somebody else that wants them, just let me know. They can use them.
Wow.
He
would be a godsend for any podcaster.
That's what I'm telling him. I tell him he has an idea, and he does a good job with it. Should hear the one that I have coming out for the Takedown series. I told him I wanted a spooky version of, like a more in-your-face version of the Stranger Things intro, and he did it, and he nailed it. And I'm like, oh my! I'm just gonna let it play in the background the entire episode when I go off my tangent about all the things wrong with Top Gun Maverick.
Wow, I'm looking forward to that. But I was going to say as well, the logo for the show, it just says all it needs to in there, and it's not your average. Not that I have a problem with these, but it's not the average picture of a person, name of the thing, and that you see everywhere. But it tells you all that you need to, because you've got that little bit of film reel there, and it says 1 minute movie review. It explains what it is. Like I said, it's got the nice film reel there. Yeah,
actually, I had a couple of goes at it, and I am not a graphic designer, and I could not do it. That actually is from Fiverr. Hey, your episode is now sponsored by Fiverr. No, I bought it from Fiverr. I think I paid $5 for somebody to do that, and they created that whole logo. He gave me 3 of them, and I picked that one. I'm like, this. As soon as I saw it, I'm like, this is the one. I'm like, this is perfect. I'm like, I could not have asked for anything better than that. It was only $5 for it. I was really grateful for that. I didn't know what to do.
Yeah, take my money.
Yeah, $5. That was the best $5 I probably have ever spent in my life, to be honest. Because I would have spent, 20 hours to produce something that wasn't near as good as that.
Yeah, absolutely.
And
so where are we going now? Oh, so here we go then. So do you think you could do the 10-second movie descriptions? I could really do with a timer for this.
if I had a timer for it, yeah. Yeah, I could try. What do you got? Which ones you got?
Okay, so let's start with Jaws.
Jaws. Man-eating shark terrorizes eastern seaboard, and nobody will listen to the sheriff that tries to warn him otherwise.
That's the film. That's it.
Maybe that should be the 10-second movie review.
Yeah. But that woman, that film Jaws, it makes me laugh because when I watch it, I think, how old is that woman who's got that young boy on the beach when she's having a go about him? And you think, and then when the boy's killed and there's the funeral, and you look at her and you think, there's no way that woman is young enough to have a kid that age, because she looks like in her mid-40s to almost 50-something years old.
Yeah. I like just talking about it makes it like, what a great, like, terrible movie. Like, now we're for no reason afraid of sharks.
It's actually one of my favorite films, actually.
It's like on my yearly rotation. I have certain movies that I watch at least once a year.
Yeah.
And that's one of them. And then we're getting to the point I normally watch it during summertime. I just couldn't do it. Just talking about it, I want to go watch it now. Like, it was so good. Like, wasn't it off the coast of Massachusetts, right? Like, is it not?
Didn't they,
which is,
I thought they filmed it at Cape Cod.
Which is in Massachusetts, no?
I don't know. Not a clue.
It's not like it's most shark attacks here in the States are always like Florida, Southern. That's up in the New England area.
Yeah.
And they do still have something, but nothing like this. And obviously this is not real. It's a movie, but I saw this one picture that goes around every year that's the people in a bunch of floaties in a river, and they're watching Jaws on a big projector screen. And they're like, would you watch Jaws floating in a river? And like, the answer is yes, because there's no shark in there. But it make you think twice before you climb in that floaty, though. What a great movie.
So here we go. Star Wars: A New Hope in 10 seconds.
Oh, God. A story set of good and evil, but this time in space and with light up swords. Well, I was actually, this is going to be one of my new revisited series movies.
Okay.
Like, think about, I struggle to think about the volume from that one movie, how much things have taken off, like a whole industry out of that one movie, which could have easily flopped is at the same length. It was very close. I watched like this behind the scenes series on it. I'm trying to recall what it was on, but like they had a lot of fortunate things happen their way, and it just called lightning in a bottle, and they have a whole franchise out of it, and theme parks and merchandising, and all from that one movie. It was so iconic. Is there ever been a more iconic one than that first one that changed? Because we weren't really into sci-fi prior to that a whole lot. What was it, 1977?
Was it?
77, 76? We had it before that, but nothing to that scale.
No. Well, the only thing we had, but it wasn't to that scale, was 2001. The only thing that was accepted up till then as a classic film would have been 2001, and before that it was all B movies.
Yeah, it was such a great franchise. My wife's never seen them.
Okay.
So we started sitting down with the boys and watching them in the correct order, in my opinion. You do the way they came out. 76, 80, 81, or whatever it was. Then you do the prequel series. Then you do the sequel series. The order that they basically were released. We got through the original series, and she's enjoying it. We're about to start the prequels, so that'll be an interesting turn because everything's a lot different with the prequel series.
Good luck with that.
Yeah. My boys don't care for the sequel series or prequel series a whole lot, so we'll see what happens with it.
Okay, so, I don't know if we could do this. The Godfather.
Well, everybody has daddy issues, and the mob is no different. we look at this one as his son joins his dad in the mafia. Said, I can't do it. Dang it, I screwed it up. I can't do it. I feel like I had something there for a second. Everybody has daddy issues.
I'm trying to think if I could do it now. No, lost it.
I feel like I was that close to finishing it, but I screwed it up at the end.
Yeah. I mean, I actually think you'll do well with this one. Avengers Endgame.
Ooh. What more could you ask for a movie? It's got drama. It's got death. It's got time travel. But it's all in the superhero format. And then you get to take on a big green guy. A big purple guy, excuse me. What more could you ask for? It's probably one of my favorite movies of all time, by the way.
Yeah, absolutely. Do you know the film Flash Gordon?
Flash Gordon, a football player, travels to a different world to save Earth from a sorcerer of sorts. I haven't seen Flash Gordon in probably 35 years, so that's probably the best take you're going to get out of me. I have not seen it in a long time.
I've got a special edition Blu-ray downstairs of it.
Do you really?
Yes.
I have not seen that in so long. I don't even know if that plot line was even close to it.
I think it's close. You know, because you know, Ming the Merciless is trying to destroy the Earth, and he goes out there to try and. Flash goes out there in a space rocket with a doctor and inventor and some chick that likes him, and saves the universe.
What more could you ask for?
So, and you've got a couple of hotties in there as well. So, as a kid watching it, back when I was a kid. Pardon?
Yeah. I haven't seen it in so long. You're gonna have my list is gonna be like this. It's already a mile long. It's about to be 2 miles long of things I need to watch. Easy.
Ocean's 11.
Ooh, a gang of thieves joined together to take down, what is his name? Andy Garcia, knock him off his high horse.
Yeah. And then in Ocean's 12, Andy Garcia joins them to take down another hotel.
Oh, God, there were such great scenes where Andy joins it, and he's so cringeworthy. They're both like Clooney and Brad Pitt are like rolling their eyes at this guy. We're like, let's go have some fun. Oh, God. What a great series.
It's amazing what they made based on the original.
Yeah.
This should be easy enough. Die Hard.
Oh, in this Christmas movie, John McClane ruins a German terrorist agenda on Christmas Eve. I always say Christmas movie just because it pisses so many people off. I don't think it's not really a Christmas movie, but just mentioning it gets people to get riled up. It's not a Christmas movie.
Well, technically, the majority of films made have sections that are based at Christmas.
Yeah, you can make anything a Christmas movie.
Yeah, you can. Yeah.
What was the Lion, Witch, and the Wardrobe set during a Christmas time, I believe?
Well, it's always winter and it's never Christmas.
Yeah.
Huh. I've read that so many times as a kid. But and here we go. It's funny, this one that I've put this down, considering the first film you saw at the cinema. Then Jurassic Park.
Man somehow creates dinosaurs. Man puts dinosaurs in a cage in an amusement park. Dinosaurs get mad. Dinosaurs eat human. The end.
And they escape. Yeah.
Like what? Every movie, the same exact thing happens, and I still watch because we know what's going to happen. But it's so good though. At the time, we never seen anything like it. 93, I've never seen a movie. Well, it was my first cinema experience, but looking back on it, in movies prior to that, I don't think the way it was shot, the way it was done, the mixture between CGI and animatronics that they did, there was nothing done at that time prior to that.
Absolutely.
What's up, everybody? This is Chris from the podcast Real Film Reviewed, and you're listening to Marv on Pods Like Us.
So, go back to another page, Martin. That's the different page. So, have you got a favourite genre of film? And have you got a favourite film in that genre?
I try not to do that because I don't want to get siloed into a certain one. I have lots of and during this episode, I probably told you I have 15 favorite movies because I probably do have 15 favorite movies. I used to be really into World War II movies, and Saving Private Ryan had an effect on me, and it really set me on. And might be part of the reasons I was in the Marine Corps when I graduated high school. It had an effect on me, and if I gun to my head, if I had to pick a movie, I don't know if I could decide between Lord of the Rings, Return of the King, or Shawshank Redemption. I do like fantasy movies, and it's probably too stereotypical to say those two, but I just think they're so good. I think for each category, I could rattle off my favorite movie in that genre. I don't know if I have a favorite one, but I do like the fantasy aspects too, because you can do whatever you want and just have fun with it. Lord of the Rings, House of the Dragon, those esque type were probably my favorite. I don't know if I don't like to get pigeonholed into one. Depends on my mood. Tomorrow I could tell you Avengers Endgame and probably wouldn't even blink about it. Like, yeah, I think this movie has everything.
Well, Shawshank and the other film that's a prison film that's based on a Stephen King property, Green Mile. They have their mystical side to them. They have that. They've both got that these bits in that are very King-esque in essence. I mean, like the Green Mile, for instance, that it's a beautiful film, and then you get that that real almost horrific electric chair sequence where they forget to wet the head, and that is pure Stephen King.
Yeah, well, the guy purposely doesn't wet the head because he was trying to make the guy suffer. Then the guy didn't want him. He's like, no, you look at what you just did. You just did it because you're sick and you're demented. And the movie has everything. It takes on Green Mile takes on other issues of where they just found a black man and like, okay, he's like, I don't want to fight anymore. Like, no, we know you didn't do this. We can prove that you didn't do this. And he's like, no, I'm tired. It has everything. It has a redemption story. It has love and loss. It has Tom Hanks. Anything you put Tom Hanks in, it's generally a fairly decent movie. Green Mile's up there too. Shawshank. Yeah, I always think that the name Andy Dufresne. What a great name of a character.
Yes.
And spends all this time going through these terrible things that he didn't do, and the whole time there's a plot twist at the end, and you're like, oh my god, he's doing all this whole time. And like, I never saw that coming, and I've never been so shocked when I saw it, and I still feel the same. That comes on AMC here all the time, and I'll sit there and watch it like I haven't seen it 100 times in my life, and I'll just sit, and I own the movie, and I'll sit there and still watch it like I've not. That's what I consider a great movie. So you can sit there and it's randomly on TV with commercials, and yet you still sit there and watch it like you never seen it, and you enjoy it every time.
Yeah, like you said, you watch it with the commercials and you think, and then only afterwards do you think, I've got the DVD. Why did I watch it with commercials?
I can skip this, and I choose to sit here and do this. That's a great movie. It just checks all the boxes.
So what advice would you give to people starting their own podcast for the first time?
Well, there's two things that stick out to me. You can plan and plan and plan and plan and keep on kicking the can down the road. I would almost throw all that out and just record your first episode and just see what happens. Because you're going to be perfecting. And I'm only 6 months in on my first solo endeavor here, and I'm still going to be changing things up for the next year. It still takes a while to find your legs and to perfect your craft. And even that, you should still be changing things up to see what works and to bring some new life into your show. But my first advice is sometimes I get into these spaces and I hear people talk about podcasting and they're like, I've been planning this for 6 months. I'm like, what are you doing? Just try. I'm like, you don't even know if you have an idea. Just put it out there and see what happens. And the second one is almost contrary to the first one, but I saw this tweet not long ago and I retweeted it, and I got to find it again because it had a profound impact on me. Somebody posted that I was following. It says, in the land of hundreds of thousands of podcasters and millions of episodes now, people find your podcast and they willingly choose and listen to your podcast.
Yeah.
That is so significant and impactful and powerful because out of all this other things, they choose you and they somehow found you. You have a voice out of millions of people that willingly choose to listen to you, and that means something.
Yeah.
And so it doesn't matter if you have 1,000 listeners or you have one active listener. That one means more than anything else. Like, I've turned this into relationships, friendships, I should say, with people that I don't even know from around the world that we talk to almost on a daily basis, and we send information back and forth. We have a good time. We banter with each other. Sometimes we don't agree with things in movies and stuff like that. And I actually think it's better than because I get different perspectives. But it has been one of the more rewarding things that I've ever done. And it's one of the most humbling things because sometimes things just don't work the way you think it's going to. And it takes a lot more time than you ever think it would.
Yeah.
But it's also one of the most rewarding things you do. So just take that shot, find your legs, find who your audience is, and just make things that you're proud of, and everything else will just happen. I would take 25 listeners every week versus hundreds of them that I have no interactions with. I'm happy with whatever I get. I have weeks where I have 250 people listen, and other weeks I have 25 people. It goes up and down. It's the roller coaster.
It is. Yeah. But with your show,
Just don't focus on the numbers. Just have fun.
Have fun. Yeah. But I was going to say, with your show, I mean, the thing is that it's the same with mine. It depends on what you're talking about as to the listeners that you get as well, because there's certain films, like if you talk about in your show Marvel films, I bet those episodes are huge for listeners.
Actually, this is funny. It's not.
No?
It's the opposite, which is stunning to me. It's movies that go under the radar. My best episodes are the American Underdog story, the Kurt Warner story, somehow blew it away. Anything I've ever done before. The Keep Breathing series that's on Netflix. For whatever reason, that one had 50 downloads in the first week, and I'm like, what? Like, it's out of the nowhere. Like, the other episodes do well, but it's the ones that you don't expect to. And I'm getting to realizing that people are looking for something else to watch, so they're probably listening. Okay, what is Mikey? I trust Mikey. What does he think of this? What can you give me a reason to watch this? And that's really rewarding to me.
Well, maybe they are looking for something that's not in the main known. So they're looking for something that's a bit different because they might be sick of it. I mean, to be honest, there is with that, just to go off tangent very quickly. And the problem is that we're running on time as well. There's a problem that I could keep talking to you for hours, to be honest.
Yeah, so can I. We'll have to reschedule this and do this again.
We will. But I think there's a problem at the moment where there's too much, in essence, of the MCU in a way. I think they've oversaturated the market in a way.
They did, and they have some issues moving forward. I don't think I don't know what they should do. I don't know if they should just scale back. I don't think they should abandon it altogether because there's still the core base that it's going to be there, and they're going to be there regardless. I think that they need to increase some of the production value because I feel like you said earlier, things are being rushed and they shouldn't, and they don't need to be. You have time to finish. Nobody's clamoring for these projects. You have a whole slate of stuff coming out. Take your time, put a good product, and just see what happens with it.
And if you've got that extra footage there, if you've got that extra footage there, if you watch the film first, these people that are producing the film or the distributors, Disney, when they watch them, in some cases, if you've got more footage that fleshes out a story, I don't think they should be doing this, restricting their films that they're doing at the moment to the 2-hour maximum to this thing, because if it can go a bit longer, it's already been shown recently that people are interested in a longer form film because it worked with Endgame and it worked with Infinity War. So it doesn't really make sense that they're restricting the lengths now of films.
Yeah, and I think they might have been doing that because there's this weird nature that you have to watch all the other movies prior to this one for this to make sense. I completely disagree with that.
So do I.
I can go into Love and Thunder and I understood what was going on. There's some certain parts that little one-liners that you might be more funny if you knew the backstory, but I can watch that as a complete movie by itself. This whole myth that you have to watch all of them prior to that is exactly that. It's a myth. You can watch these solo. And I think what they were trying to do is cut these down so you don't have to watch all these movies prior to this and not have to do a 37-hour commitment just to watch Love and Thunder or whatever it is, Black Panther, Wakanda Forever. But I don't believe that. Like Wakanda Forever, you could watch Black Panther right before that and maybe one other movie and understand what's going on. I think you could just literally watch just Black Panther and the next one and be perfectly fine. Yep. I don't think that they're really going to be that much of a tie-in.
No, but we've had that
the
before.
tie-ins now, and in the end credits, anyways.
But I mean, television series that we've watched over the year, where you have an arc, where you have like something going on in series, you can pop in and out of those where there's something that pops, in just one episode. We've done it before ourselves with shows, and we've not needed to watch that earlier episode to understand it, because they might mention it in passing, something from another episode, but it doesn't matter if you've seen that episode or not. Seinfeld did it all the time.
Yeah. What if they did like a 3-minute recap or something like right into the movie? Like that might bug some people some wrong way, and it might really, as I'm saying it now, I can see some purists going really upset about that. But me, I wouldn't care. I'm like, oh yeah, I totally forgot about this one little 5-second moment. I'm like, oh yeah. I thought it was insignificant at the time. I didn't know it was going to play a role later.
Do what they did with the Rockies, where you have at the beginning of the film, you have a reel that tells you what's happened on the previous Rocky films. It gives you the history of Rocky while you've got the credits, and then you go into Rocky 2 from Rocky 1 or Rocky 3 from the others, and like that.
Or like a season recap, like going into like Game of Thrones, they would do like a 15-second promo or whatever, and like just a little hype reel going into it. I'm like, oh yeah, I forgot about these 3 things. But more times than not, during the hype reel, I'm like, I really like that moment. I want to go back and watch the Red Wedding for the 50th time, because it was the most stunning thing I've ever seen in television up until that point, because I did not expect that. That was fun. I watched that with my son, and I didn't tell him I watched all through the Game of Thrones series. I didn't tell him anything. He was like, man, I really like the King of the North. I sit there and break eye contact, would look at him. It's like, Dad, you didn't tell me. Okay, I really like the Red Viper. I look away. He's dead. I'm like, I told you not to have a favorite character, because when you do, he dies, or she.
That reminds me of the opposite, with the I like this bit about the recent She-Hulk episode, where they've got that character Madison, and she's giving away everything to do with this, with the Sopranos. It's going, and she's there going, oh, it's terrible when he killed Christopher, and he's like, no, you've spoiled it.
It's 2 N's and a Y, but it's not what you think. Like, that was a fantastic episode. Like, it doesn't take itself too seriously, and I love stuff like that. And they poke fun at themselves. And if they did an episode, I know it's a joke on the internet right now with her and Wong. If they did a solo spinoff, the 3-episode spinoff just for fun, I would watch it. I'm a schmuck like that. I would love it.
I said it to Matt Aguilar of Comic Book Nation, and I said to him, I said, what I want is 3 or 4 episodes of Wong and Madison going through the multiverse trying to repair things.
Wong's just over here working his butt off, and she's over there just pouring herself a cocktail.
Do you want a gin and tonic, Wongers?
God, it was so good. Like, their marketing, I'm going to get myself in trouble. I got to go get the kids here in a second, but their marketing has been fantastic. It's been so off the cuff, like out of nowhere, behind the scenes, like marketing, and the whole thing with Meg Thee Stallion, I thought was hilarious. I didn't think it was over the top. I'm like, do we not remember Star-Lord dancing really stupidly, awkwardly to save the world? It was cringy back then. It's cringy now. This one, I don't even think it's that cringy. I just thought it was funny.
Yeah. So where can people find you and get hold of the show?
Well, you can follow me at OMMR Podcast on Twitter, Instagram, TikTok. Email me at ommrpodcast@gmail.com. Or I have a website that I'm trying to figure out how to use. And actually having fairly good success with it. 1minutemoviereviews.com.
Okay. Thanks very much for speaking with me today, Mikey.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Good luck to you.
Thank you. You can find Pods Like Us just by looking for Pods Like Us at Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok. And you can contact me through podslikeus@gmail.com. Anyway, thank you everyone for listening, and hope you listen again to another episode of Pods Like Us. Yeah, really, celebrities should have people that are at the back of them, sort of, when they're about to go on Twitter and say something, just go, maybe you shouldn't say that.
Yeah, don't do that. I can't imagine the scrutiny of like what you can and can't say. I would say something stupid. I have said stupid things in the past that would get myself in trouble, but when I was a part of a different podcast, I was notorious for it. Almost expected of me after a certain point to say something stupid.
That's what editing is for. I use that myself.
I actually, the other podcast, we never edited the thing. This one I edit quite a bit which we'll get into that here in a minute. But I used to try to do it all in one take. But I found myself, like, especially early on, if I go back and listen, I try to do it like I'm just, it's like it's hard to understand anything I'm saying. So now I just kind of take my time, go back and edit it. And even if I go over the minute, I don't care most of the time. It does what it does.
I've noticed the timer run out and you just carry on and it's like, oh.
It's in post. I add it and I would add in post. And sometimes it's like, I can't remember what one I did, but I was like, okay, wait a minute. Was it Doctor Strange? But I was like, no, I'm like, I'm going to talk about this more. Oh, it was The Boys. That's right. It was The Boys. Yeah. I'm like, I'm not going to fit this into a minute and I don't care to.
No. But some of these things, you can't do that. It's like, I think you had trouble when you did the fantastic Only Murders in the Building. I think you had problems with explaining that in a minute as well.
I try to stick to that framework, and like I'm going to start the bonus time series up here again in this week probably, and probably go into more detail versus just the one. Like people like the 1 minute format for it because it's like an a la carte menu. They can just pick that and they don't have to. That's partly the reason I created the podcast is because, which we'll talk to when we start. I'll jump into that.
We'll say all this lot again.
Yeah.
Stu from Stu World Order, he was going to send in a question, a voicemail question as well, a voice question. And Bill from Bill Reads Bad Reviews, he was going to send in a question as well, but I've not had them yet.
They both listen to my podcast? What?
Yes, they do.
This is news to me.
There you go.
Actually, I don't think Bill follows me back on Twitter. I want to collaborate with him because I think we could vice versa on each other's show. Like I could do my 1 minute, then he could read all the bad reviews about that and hopefully poke fun at myself, which is probably a bad review. And like vice versa. And I'm like, yeah, that's pretty accurate or whatever it is. Like actually this popped up well because I was just watching Morbius on Netflix. And thankfully this came up, so I had to stop watching it because that was terrible.
I mean, since the mid-70s, Black Panther was always that way inclined. I mean, so for people a small minority to complain about it and say, oh, you're just doing a film for the sake that it's that minority is ridiculous because that's what that comic was about for 40 some years before that film even came out.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. And that's what the whole X-Men franchise was about, the mutants or people that were different. People didn't even know what they were reading and trying to get understanding for them. It's really disheartening to be still dealing with this. I made a post about this the other day, or I retweeted somebody else's post that I thought really did it well about like It's a fantasy world. It doesn't matter what your skin color is. We can do anything we want.
Yeah.
Like I knew the Lord of the Rings was in trouble early on when I saw that first promo and they had somebody of color in the promo. I'm like, oh God, this is not going to be received well. And I didn't care. I'm like, well, good. There's representations for everybody. This is what the world looks like. So of course this is good. True. Well, the source material from Tolkien. It's a fantasy world. What do you mean source material? You can have whatever you want in it. Middle Earth is all types of races and ethnicities. That's literally what the book is about.
in some ways, in some ways, and I've said this before as well, I think X-Men would be a better fit for a six to 8 part Disney series, because in a sense the comics, a lot of the better X-Men comics are the long form stories in a way, like, God, please wait at least another 10 years till you try to do the Phoenix saga again, Dark Phoenix again. Leave that.
That was so terribly done.
I mean, they failed on it twice.
It wasn't good.
But
that was disappointing. Like in Days of the Future Past is a great storyline, and they kind of mucked it up. Like it was all right, but like I felt like they could have done it better. It was a great storyline, and there's been a lot of them. Age of Apocalypse is a great storyline, and a great villain to bring it into it. Fantastic one. Well, we'll see what they do. But that's the hopeful. I hope they do it right.
But yeah, I think X-Men would work better as a limited series for 6 episodes, and do their shows, because you've also got a problem that they've had from the beginning, where the X-Men is about a group of people. It's a bit like almost like the Buffy the Vampire Slayer Scooby team, but on a larger basis. You've got this many characters in there. So if you stick them into a film that's under 2 hours, that's not much time to fit in that many characters, because they had that problem with Eternals.
Yeah, and actually I hear they might be getting a second one. I don't know if that's been officially announced, but I kind of feel like they had something there. I didn't hate the Eternals as much as other people did. I thought it was fairly well done. I just didn't feel like I had enough time to tell the story, like you said. And I kind of feel the same way about the first two episodes of Rings of Power. Like I was really down on that. I was really disappointed early on. I was like, wow, this is not what I was expecting. And I couldn't think of why it was bothering me so much. Then the third episode happened, and it all made sense to me. When you're telling a story of this big, massive world of Middle Earth, and you're telling it from 6 different locations, like 6 different storylines. And right now you can't see how it all connects. You kind of assume, it's going to at some point. But they're trying to build all these other storylines first versus episode 3, which was basically about 3 storylines. And it was so much well done. I was like, oh, okay, the whole series turned back for me. And I'm like, okay, I'm on board. Let's do this.
Yep.
I was going to be on board either way. But when I start a series, I finish it all the way through. But that one was so much well done. Now my son, who I'm watching with, he's 17. He felt the opposite. He loved the first 2 episodes, hated the third one because it was just on those 3 storylines.
Yeah.
So Amazon was going to have impossible standards with a $1 billion series. People were going to hate on it regardless of what it looked like.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to tell people that it's $1 billion over the life of the cycle. Most of that's the rights. It's not $1 billion put into one season. It's like $250 million, but that's set costs for the most part of building things for the next seasons. But I love that third episode. Oh God, it was so good. I'm like, okay, here we go. Now I'm back on board. Now they have something to build upon.
I think I ought to get started because we're limited to time, aren't we?
Yeah, and I'll talk all day long about this stuff.
I'm putting some of that out as a bit of an extra, I think.
Oh yeah, good.
I think that was a good chat already.
I could do this all day long. Oh God, I sound like Captain America now. I did not mean to do that.
Oh dear. Anyway, we'll get started now. Okay.
Apologize.
It's okay.
Immediately after that, the Amazon truck pulls in.
Right.
Good grief.
Dear me, busy there.
And the boys are about to get out of school here in a little bit. It's about this time. It's a little wild in the old Mikey 1 minute house.
There we go.
Thank you. That was what I could sit here and talk for a couple more hours about this.
Me too.
I think my kids are get a little mad at me that I'm about to leave them at school, but yeah, I'd love to do this again, get a group together and talk about things. I would be down for that.
If I get a group chat together, what have I got? I don't know whether you're interested. In a few weeks, I've got a group of us getting together, including some spy podcasters and James Bond podcasters, because it's the 60th anniversary of Dr. No next month.
Oh, wow. Has it really been 60 years already?
60 years since the first Bond film. Yeah.
Yeah. That's all. I can't even,
and
it doesn't even feel like it that long. How?
But it's got to be looked at. You know, we've got to talk about it, because to me, it's one of the major, pop culture icons, of our times, really. I think that character.
Yeah, absolutely. It's had so many influences on pop culture and spin-offs of other things. I believe there's a direct correlation between, although they would never say it, that and even Mission Impossible.
Yeah.
I don't see how there's not, but no, now Tom Cruise's hitmen are going to come after me now for that one.
I can't see any red light anywhere near you.
Yeah, they'll come get me here in a second. I'm not the biggest Tom Cruise fan in the world.
Yeah. They're either working for Tom or they're working for Mr. Feige.
Yeah. All right. Well, I gotta grab these kids. I really appreciate it. That was fun. I'd love to do it again.
Thank you very much. You take care.
Yeah, see ya.
Bye.